Well, for more, let's speak to the editor-in-chief of the International Interest, Sami Hamdi. He joins us live from London. Hi, Sami. Good to see you. Okay, first, I'm trying to understand what Mahmoud Abbas is actually doing here. Is this the right time when the United Nations is trying to press for Israel to stop the annexation of any parts of the occupied West Bank, for Palestine to suddenly say, okay, now we're scrapping all the agreements that actually are on the table and active?
I think what we have to remember is that this is not the first time Mahmoud Abbas has made this threat. In 2018, the PLO voted to withdraw from all of the agreements and security agreements with the US and Israel. And it was up to Mahmoud Abbas when to implement that vote. He didn't implement it immediately. In answer to your question, is it wise to do it now when the United Nations are trying to pressure Israel? Rather, Mahmoud Abbas is saying that the United Nations is not doing anything to pressure Israel. There is not enough pressure being put on Israel. And moreover, with this talk of annexation of the West Bank, there is an unprecedented situation in which the US now is not a mediator, but a partner. The US is supportive of what Israel intends to do. Netanyahu has formed his government, and Mahmoud Abbas is realizing, and so does everybody who supports the Palestinian cause, that there is very little that will stop Israel from annexing that West Bank. Even if we see some repercussions from Europe, even if we see some repercussions from the United Nations, it will not change the de facto, because anybody who looks at a map and sees the way that Israel has expanded with impunity will know that we've seen this cycle before. Israel annexes, they condemn, and then they annex more, and then they condemn until Israel gets bigger and bigger and Palestine gets smaller and smaller. So I think it's not about whether Mahmoud Abbas is being wise, it is whether the international community is being wise in not realizing that there is a pattern here that needs to be addressed.
My only concern, actually, for Mahmoud Abbas, it's not really whether his decision is wise or not. It's how Israel and the United States will try to play it as if he's the one that is not being the team player here, that is not coming to the negotiating table and is being the more difficult partner in this equation. But I want to go back to you saying that, there's very little that can be done, to stop Israel, if anything. It sounds like you feel the annexation of the occupied West Bank is basically inevitable at this point?
I don't think it's a matter of there's nothing that can be done. It's that there is no will for anything to be done. There is no desire for anything to be done. And I think you hit the nail on the head when you ask whether Mahmoud Abbas' statement will give fuel to Israel and US arguments that the Palestinians don't want to negotiate. For the Palestinians, it's a no-win situation. When they negotiate, they are still the terrorists. And when they don't negotiate, they're the ones who don't want peace. And in reality, on the ground, it is Israel that is expanding. It is Israel that is taking land. And it is Palestine that is on the losing side, losing more and more territory. But that doesn't seem to change the narrative. We're still talking about the two-state solution. We're still talking about how to justify an injustice, how to legitimize the taking of land. So when we're talking about with regards to nothing can be done, things can be done. Israel can be stopped. The US has the power to stop Israel. Europe has the power to stop Israel. So do the United Nations. But they don't have the will to do so.
Okay.
They only have the will.
But as you say that, I'm not sure if you're aware that France has actually just announced it is working with European partners to come up with a joint action of prevention and reprisal should Israel decide to annex even partially the West Bank. Does that encourage you at all, that there may be something's being done?
But we've had similar statements before, decades before. The statements are always the same. We express great disappointment at Israel's moves. We are conducting meetings and negotiations with the Israelis. We're in touch with our Israeli counterparts to come up with a method to promote peace and promote negotiations between the two parties. Nothing ever happens. I'm talking about action, not intentions. France can liaise with Europe all at once. Europe can liaise between each other all at once. History shows that they rarely act when it comes to the Palestine-Israel issue. Israel, when it seizes land, when it annexes land, there has never been an instance in which Israel has given up annexing land for the sake of Europe. There has never been an instance where Israel has said, you know what, guys, Europe, you are right. I shouldn't take more land off the Palestinians. There has never been an instance. And this is why I think this is a problem, in the sense that when we focus on these statements, let's focus on the actions. Netanyahu is confident enough to annex territory. US is backing him, and Europe, just as it was unable to rescue the Iran deal, just as unable to rescue the relationship with China, it doesn't have the power to do much.
Sami, just quickly, we have less than a minute left. I wanted to ask again about, Mahmoud Abbas scrapping these deals, though, with Israel and the U.S. that already have been agreed. He said, as part of that as of today, Israel now has to shoulder all responsibilities and obligations in front of the international community as an occupying power over the territory of Palestine. What does that mean? What is he saying Israel will now have to take full responsibility for?
In de facto, it means nothing. It doesn't change anything on the ground. There still has to be liaison. He's trying to say, guys, it's the world. It's clear now that Israel is an occupying power, and you have to call it an occupying power. The world is going to say, no, we will not accept that Israel is an occupying power, and you have to accept a two-state solution, and we have no interest in your narrative that you lost your land. That's the reality. Mahmoud Abbas is talking with a narrative that pro-Palestinians believe, which is that land was taken, and he's trying to get people to change the terminology they use from calling it Israel to calling it an occupying power, from calling it Israel to calling it occupied Palestine. It's a battle for narratives that Mahmoud Abbas is losing.
Okay. Sami Hamdi, great to have you. Thanks so much for joining us there. We appreciate it.